Imagine waking up one day to find the US dollar isn't the king of global finance anymore. Your savings, your investments, even the price of your groceries could feel the shockwaves. Sounds crazy, right? But in 2025, this is a real conversation. Countries like China, India, and Russia are pushing hard to dethrone the dollar. Stick with me for the next 8 minutes and I'll break down exactly what's happening, why it matters to you, and what could come next. Let's dive in. The US dollar's dominance is under fire in 2025, and it's a massive topic buzzing right now. For decades, the dollar has been the world's go-to currency. Think of it as the global money MVP. But a growing movement called de-dollarization, led by the BRICS nations, Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, and new players, is challenging its reign. They're questioning why the dollar gets to call the shots in global trade and finance. In today's video, we'll cover how the dollar became king, the rise of de-dollarization, why the dollar's still strong for now, what this means for you, and what's next for the dollar. Let's get to it. How the dollar became king. All right, let's start with a quick history lesson. Don't worry, I'll keep it short and sweet. Back in 1944, after World War II, the world's leaders met at Bretton Woods, New Hampshire, and basically crowned the US dollar the world's reserve currency. Why? The US was the economic powerhouse, with a stable economy and massive gold reserves. The deal was simple. The dollar was pegged to gold at $35 an ounce, and other countries' currencies were tied to the dollar. It was like the dollar became the global financial glue. Even after President Nixon ditched the gold standard in 1971, the dollar stayed on top thanks to the US's strong economy and the petrodollar system, where oil, the world's most traded commodity, is priced in dollars. That's why, even today, about 88% of global transactions and 59% of central bank reserves are in dollars. Pretty dominant, right? But here's the thing. Cracks are starting to show. The rise of de-dollarization. So what's challenging the dollar's throne? Enter de-dollarization, the push to reduce reliance on the US dollar in global trade and finance. Countries like China, Russia, and India are leading the charge, and they've got reasons. First, the US has used the dollar as a geopolitical weapon. Think sanctions. Russia faced over 16,000 of them after invading Ukraine in 2022, freezing nearly half its reserves. That's made countries nervous about depending on a currency the US can control. Second, the BRICS bloc, now expanded to include Egypt, Iran, and the UAE, is flexing its muscle. They represent 42% of global central bank reserves and 37% of global GDP. That's serious clout. They're exploring alternatives like trading in their own currencies. China and Brazil already settle $150 billion in annual trade in yuan, not dollars. And get this, in 2023, 1/5 of oil trades were in non-dollar currencies, a big shift from when nearly 100% were in dollars. The BRICS are even talking about a new currency, maybe called the unit, possibly backed by gold or their own currencies. Sounds like a game changer, doesn't it? Why the dollar's still strong, for now. Now, before you start panicking about the dollar crashing, let's pump the brakes. The dollar's not going down without a fight. Despite all the de-dollarization talk, it's still the world's most trusted currency. Why? The US economy is still massive, with deep financial markets and a stable political system. Well, mostly. The dollar's liquidity is unmatched. You can use it anywhere, anytime. Plus, the US dollar index is actually up 7.4% over the past 5 years, including a 5.3% gain in the last 6 months of 2024. Even with rising US debt and inflation, the dollar's held strong. And here's a wild card. President Trump's back in 2025, promising 100% tariffs on countries that ditch the dollar. That's a bold move to keep the dollar on top. But the question is, can threats like that stop the momentum of countries like China, who's pushing its yuan as a global alternative? Let's talk about what this means for you. Okay, let's make this real. If the dollar's dominance weakens, what happens to you and me? First, a weaker dollar could mean higher prices for imports. Think electronics, clothes, even gas. That's because a less desirable dollar buys less on the global market. Inflation could creep up, hitting your grocery bills and travel costs. If you're an investor, dollar-denominated assets like US bonds might lose appeal, raising borrowing costs for everyone, from the government to you getting a car loan. On the flip side, a weaker dollar could make US exports cheaper, boosting American businesses. But here's the kicker. The BRICS push for alternatives like blockchain-based payment systems or a gold-backed currency could reshape global trade. If they succeed, we might see a multipolar financial world where no single currency rules. That could mean more choices, but also more uncertainty. So, should you be worried? Not yet, but it's worth keeping an eye on. What's next for the dollar? So, where's this all heading in 2025 and beyond? The BRICS summit in Rio de Janeiro this July is a big one to watch. They're doubling down on alternatives like the BRICS Bridge, a blockchain-based payment system to bypass dollar-dominated networks like SWIFT. China's already got its own system, CIPS, growing fast with 142 direct participants by mid-2024. But here's the reality. A BRICS currency isn't happening overnight. Experts say it's a long-term goal. Think decades, not years. Why? BRICS countries have different political systems and economic priorities. Agreeing on a unified currency is tough when Brazil's dealing with devaluation and Russia's under sanctions. Plus, the dollar's still got trust and infrastructure that alternatives like the yuan or a BRICS unit can't match yet. My take? The dollar's dominance is eroding, but it's more like a slow burn than a collapse. You've got time to prepare, but don't sleep on this. All right, folks, that's the deal on the dollar's declining dominance in 2025. It's a wild time in global finance, and the moves by BRICS could change how we trade, invest, and live. What do you think? Will the dollar stay king, or are we heading toward a multipolar money world? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and if you found this breakdown helpful, smash that like button and subscribe for more real talk on what's shaping your future. Until next time, stay curious and keep your eyes on the money. Peace out.